A week before Christmas in 2020, I was laid off, which I was so excited about. That was our God giving us a little nudge saying, go ahead and just go for it.
Yeah.
So we signed our franchise agreement that day, and here we are now.
I'm just not a risk taker. You know, he had a good job. He had good insurance. We were living fine. I'm like, just keep going to work, you know? And, but he wasn't happy. It took me a little while to warm up to it. And then I just trusted, you know, because it's, it was putting everything that we owned on the line for something we weren't sure about.
Yeah.
And that's tough. And making this whole change in our lives, it's been incredible. Never thought we'd be sitting here doing a podcast about a business we own.
We put everything we've worked for our whole lives on the line, and it's the worst that happens. We lose it. We can always rebuild, but we're not dying over it.
Yeah.
Let's take a chance, roll the dice, and go for it.
Welcome back to the Wellness Business Secrets Podcast. It's Josh here, your host, and I'm so excited about this one because we have something a little bit different for you. So the last two podcasts you have seen, we've had non-franchise owners. And so I wanted to bring something a little bit different. We have Allison and Joel. They are the owners of St. John iCRYO, and they have a story that I'm so excited for you guys to hear. And they have something I say unique, but it's not that unique because you may be someone in the same situation where you started a business and you felt like you might be underprepared, you weren't trained, you didn't grow up in a business or anything like that. We have, Joel, 22 years in sales before you opened up.
Yeah, 22 years of pharmaceutical sales.
And Allison, how many years in teaching?
Around 10, started teaching, had kids, went back.
Based off what I'm seeing, right, with having a 7-figure, business, it's beautiful, 14 people on staff. You guys must be entrepreneurs at heart. Like you grew up entrepreneurs, like you guys own multiple businesses before this.
Yeah, my parents.
Your parents had?
Yeah.
Okay, so you had a little bit of a sneak
little
peek.
bit, yeah. I grew up in the bar and restaurant business.
There we go. And then you probably,
Nothing.
Okay.
So this was a hard jump for me.
There you go. So if you are feeling like you might be a little bit underprepared, you're feeling like you're not ready to take the leap yet, then I think you're going to love their story. So let's get into it. Joel, Allison.
Yes.
Thank you guys for doing this.
Appreciate you
I
having
really
us.
appreciate you. So I think where I would love to start is before we even opened up iCRYO, right? Before you guys took the leap of faith and started it, because I think people miss the before. And they miss the uncertainty, the scariness of it, the commitments that it takes, the risk that it takes. And so, Joel, you stumbled upon this first. So talk to me kind of about, did you just wake up one day and was like, I'm going to open up a business, or how did you get here?
Well, I always wanted to open up a business, but being in pharmaceutical sales for 22 years, I just had a passion, loved helping people improve the quality of life, but didn't want to do it with medication, wanted to do it a natural way. So doing a lot of research and trying to find, what can I do? Came across cryotherapy. I was like, that tugged at me. I was like, that's pretty interesting. So I was digging into cryotherapy, and I came across different articles talking about iCRYO, how they're disrupting the industry. And I was like, that's what I got to be a part of. Somebody who's disrupting the industry.
Yeah. So we sent out a podcast form before this, and I was not expecting to see your answer of 22 years in pharmaceutical sales. Mm-hmm. So you're in there. It's not like you were doing it for like a year and you're like, I want to try something else.
Yeah.
What started tugging at you of even the ideal of wanting to get out of that and open up a business?
I loved pharmaceutical sales for the first 10 years or so. I mean, you can build a relationship with doctors. Like I would go into the emergency room, go through the back door. Doctor would, take me into the lounge and get in a recliner, sit back and just have conversations. You could build that relationship. But as time went on, all these rules and regulations like HIPAA came into play. It was more and more difficult to build this relationship and kind of really just get to talk to the doctor. So I was just getting frustrated. I was like, we're helping people, but, not building any relationships. They don't want to talk to me. And besides, it's just, a lot of it's just masking the issues that their patients are having. I want to help people the right way, the natural way, and get them better.
And it must have tugged at you hard because opening up a business is not just a quick decision, right? It's not a easy thing to do either. And we'll dive into kind of what that looked like. When did you notice, when did it flip? When did you hit that switch did you say, cool, I feel this way, I want to get back in a relationship business, and then you just immediately went off to open up the business?
Well, it was, just the frustration building up. And as I was digging into cryotherapy and iCRYO, I was trying to get Allison on board. I was so done. And Allison she's not that risk taker like that.
Yeah.
And of course, growing up and, parents owning several bars, restaurants, I was like, I kind of take a chance. I want to be happy, do my own thing. It wasn't until really COVID hit that, we couldn't go out in the field and go see these doctors. And I was like, I got to do something. And Allison's like, you can't, no, you still get a paycheck. It's a good job. I was like, but it can't continue. Something's going to happen. So actually a week before Christmas in 2020, I was laid off, which I'm so excited about. Hey, the regional director called. I mean, they laid off half the sales force, half the managers, but the regional director called me and, explaining everything, what was going on. And I was like, I'm good. I'm, I'm fine. I feel bad for you for having to make these calls, but this, that was our God giving us a little nudge saying, go ahead and,
It's
chase your
done.
dream.
We call it our God wink.
Yeah.
Your God wink? I
So
love
yeah,
that.
a week before Christmas 2020, sorry, laid off, and then Christmas Day 2020, Allison's like, let's just go for it.
Yeah.
So we signed our franchise agreement that day, and here we are now.
Yeah. And I think there's a healthy skepticism before jumping from a career to starting a business. And so before the God wink, Allison, when he first brought it to you, what went through your head?
Definitely wasn't on board. I was just kind of letting him entertain himself, like he did travel to a few locations and check things out. And regrettably now, like I wasn't a part of that because I was just like, go do your thing, learn about it. And took me a while to open up. I mean, probably about a year before I opened up to the idea. I'm just not a risk taker. He had a good job. He had good insurance. We were living fine. I'm like, just keep going to work, and, but he wasn't happy. And making this whole change in our lives, it's been incredible. Never thought we'd be sitting here doing a podcast about a business we own. So it's an incredible journey. But yes, it took me a little while to warm up to it. And then I just trusted, because it's it was putting everything that we owned on the line for something we weren't sure about.
Yeah.
And that's tough.
You got to take a risk in life. It's like, okay, we put everything we work for our whole lives on the line, and it's the worst that happens. We lose it. We can always rebuild, but we're not dying over it.
Yeah.
Let's take a chance, roll the dice, and go for it. It's funny, and it was during COVID, as I mentioned. It was signed Christmas Day of 2020. We didn't open the doors until April 23rd of 22. So that was a long time frame before we can get it open and going. So, you do what you got to do to survive in that time. Allison was teaching. I go to work at Amazon, making the boxes, filling them. There's no shame when you got to put food on the table.
And you said something called God wink.
Mm-hmm.
Can you touch on that a little bit?
It's just when it feels right. It was that little bit of a nudge that we needed. And it was kind of a sign like, okay, he doesn't have a job anymore. This is what you need in your life. And it's been incredible. We work really hard every day, but we love to work.
I love it. What I have found over the last decade in entrepreneurship, I started my first business in a park, actually, illegally. I was living a life that I was not proud of, and had a life-changing moment where I found I was having my first daughter. Mm-hmm. And to me, that, I guess I would call that my God wink. And that was the wink of, hey, it's time to build something that's good, right? It's time to, how can I make more of an impact? How can I look at my life and say, I'm actually helping people? Mm-hmm. And it starts with that. I love that. I'm going to use that from now on. Like, it starts with that God wink, but then I think it takes risk and faith, right? Like, it's the risk of it, because I love how you said it. It's like, what's the worst that can happen? Mm-hmm. Right? But that's that risk. The worst that can happen is you lose it. Right. But you can, that's the worst. It's not like you're going to die, right? Hopefully not, but as long as it's going to kill you. And so I think the ideal of being willing to take a risk and then being willing to have the faith to back it up. When she got on board, how did that make you feel?
Oh, I was stunned. I was like, what, really? Oh, let's go. Just so ecstatic and just saying, good things will happen. Dreams are coming true. Let's do it. Let's go for it.
And this is, especially with social media nowadays, it's tough, especially for younger entrepreneurs, because everything looks like an overnight success story. Mm-hmm. Everything looks like it just happened, right? It was always there in a sense. And sometimes our staff can think that too. And you made a comment there, even the process of opening took 2 years.
Right.
And you mentioned something about going to Amazon warehouse to work.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about that 2-year process of actually getting the location opened?
Well, of course, in that process, it's a lot of scouting. Where do you want to put your location, your center? Going through the process of getting SBA, that was miserable. Right?
Yeah.
They said it would take just a few months to get the SBA. It took 7 months.
Jeez.
Yeah, so everything was just taking longer and longer. The build out was fine. It only took 3 months to build it out, but to get the permit, it took 4 months. So permitting took longer than actual construction. So it was just a headache, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I'm fortunate that I did have the time to put into opening iCRYO, doing the SBA, all the stuff I needed to do to prepare to get it open.
Because you kind of see two ways that people will jump into business, right? You have my way, where it was a little bit more just naive, like super risk. And, we're young at the time. So I'm like, whatever. I got approved for I think it was $900 credit card. And so that didn't get me far, but it got me to Academy and my old pickup truck. And I was able to get dumbbells and mats. And I knew I had to get a kettlebell. So I got a kettlebell or two. And then we started in the park. But then we also have the way where I see people open where they're a little bit more deliberate with it, right? They're a little bit more, like you said, finding the right location, going through the loan process, things like that. So I think people, both ways can work. Obviously, you guys are proof of that too. And so when you say something like finding the right location, just for someone listening where they might be in that process, how did you know when you found the right location?
Well, first, you got to have the right demographics, right? Your population, your income, and just what businesses are around you. Do you have gyms around you? Do you have other competitors right next to you?
Yep.
So just taking all that into account, narrowed it down. I probably had a few, 3, 4, maybe 5 locations picked out. And once I did, I sent those to iCRYO, and their team would go through it, brought a couple more to the table, locations, and then we kind of had it narrowed down, and iCRYO flew in, and we would go tour these locations and kind of figure out which one would be best. And oddly enough, my number one was their number one spot. So I was like, yeah, let's go get it.
You guys started straight away, right? You said, we're going to do this with a franchise. You chose iCRYO.
Mm-hmm.
Was that helpful to have them in that beginning process?
Oh, because I had no idea what I was doing. What help, fun. Taking this risk is the reason I want to buy into a franchise. You got the blueprint. Let's go do it. Because I would be so scatterbrained all over the place.
Yeah.
I didn't have them.
And I think that blueprint for opening location, that's big.
Absolutely. For us,
someone to hold your hand through the process and help you, because we've never owned a business before. We've learned a lot along the way, but in the beginning, like we were clueless. So having someone, what are they, business in the box and everything's there and they're there for you.
So 2 years to get open. Obviously, life still has to happen. Bills have to get paid. Kids have to be taken care of, right? Things still have to happen during those 2 years. So for you, Allison, were you still working as a teacher during this time?
Yep, I was still teaching. Actually continued teaching through our first year of operations, and then saw how overwhelming that was. So I did step away, and now I'm in the center every day.
Jumped in.
Yeah.
During those 2 years, what were some of the stressors that you probably prepare some people to go through, and maybe some words of encouragement of as you go through that, because you're seeing this, how much it's going to cost, money's going out, right? Taking on a loan, all those things there, but you don't see money coming in yet, right? You don't have that, I call it the reinforcement, right? You don't have that reinforcement yet of, okay, we're making money, we're going to get there. So during those 2 years, like what were some of your biggest stressors and how did you walk through that?
I don't know. He thankfully had a really nice severance because worked for 22 years. But still we supplemented that with him going to Amazon and working so we were able to kind of maintain where we were in life prior to him getting laid off. But absolutely things got tough. We weren't really putting a lot of money out in the beginning.
We were fortunate I had a great retirement. So
good.
I used half our retirement to fund the business. So by doing that, didn't have to take as much money from the SBA. So we were able to be profitable a lot sooner than somebody maybe who didn't.
You made a decision though still to go and supplement some income working at Amazon.
Right.
Which is obviously could feel like a step backwards for some people, right? Especially if their career was in a different direction beforehand. But you saw a vision and you saw a reason for it.
I stepped back. I just figured, look, I'm going to do something that I typically wouldn't do. Let me do something, experience it. No better than anybody else. Just getting out there, working, making a paycheck, putting food on the table. That's what it's about.
Man. So we get to grand opening. We're there. It's time. It's time to open up the doors. Walk us through the grand opening process. The up to it. opening it up, was it just smooth selling? Everything was perfect.
No.
And we have all the
Where's
members
the dream?
come through the door. Like, what does it look like to have a grand opening of a franchise?
It looks to be overwhelming.
It's exciting. You know, it is overwhelming. You're on your own. Corporate was there for us the week before, taught us all the things as much as they could. But when you're not in a daily operation of already being open, little things like learning the POS system and how to sell a gift card. We had a great opening day. I think we did set a record that day of sales for grand
iCRYO?
opening. Yes.
Yeah.
So it was a great day. It was a busy day, but I think I mentioned to you before, it was kind of a haze. And one of the memories I have is selling a gift card that day. And I'm like, yeah, I got this. And I didn't have it. So the lady that was there was very patient with me. And I ended up having to go get my little notebook of notes and look up how to sell that gift card that day. And
I think it took like 15 minutes
it
to sell.
took a little while.
Oh.
But she had owned a business, and she's like, I get it. You just take your time. And, it's like,
good.
Thank you.
It still probably felt like the longest 15 minutes of your life.
It did, because I'm very much a people pleaser. And even today in the center, I don't like people having to wait. But, I've learned that sometimes that's unavoidable. And as long as you acknowledge them and let them know that you're there and you're working with them, and it's an acknowledgement of I'm doing my best, and it goes a long way.
So you guys set a record for a grand opening. So
At the time, it's been.
At the time. And so for that prep process of going into it, what were some of the tactical things that you did to prep the grand opening?
We did a lot of pop-ups, going to different gyms, setting up our table with all the information, our tent, going to these gyms at 5:00 in the morning, just trying to get whoever we could. And we do that. And during the week, I would, they had an empty building right next to us. And I talked to the landlord, and he let me go kind of set up shop right in there, my table and everything. So, which is fortunate, right next to a fitness place. So I was out there every day, all day. Yeah. Just, if nobody would stop by, at least, it's on a busy road, they would see the name iCRYO on the tent. So just getting the name out there as much as possible.
Yeah. How long before grand opening did you start that process?
Probably 2-3 months
Really?
before we opened, we were doing pop-ups.
Did we do paid ads at all, or was it all grassroots?
We didn't know about all that.
We would throw out something on Facebook here and there, but yeah, no.
Yeah, I think you were trying to post, and it was just not even
struggled.
sponsored paid ads.
Just the post of the business page?
Yeah. I mean, again, you live and learn, and if and when we open our second, I think we'll blow it away even more, because we've learned so much along the way.
Yeah. But I think the biggest nugget here that I want people to see is that it's not that there was this one magic trick, right? It's the, hey, run this marketing campaign and you're going to fill up your location immediately when you opened. I mean, you were for 2 to 3 months hustling, boots on the ground, getting the name out there, doing pop-up tents. And I feel like sometimes, because of digital marketing nowadays, if people do know about it beforehand, they'll forget that element of the game. And this is a service business. It's a people business, right? And it's the people in your community that are going to be coming here. And so, yeah, next time, cool. Maybe you add on paid ads on top of it, but would you still do the pop-ups?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. It's about relationships, and the more relationships you can build with people, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah.
That they'll become loyal at that point.
There we go. So
we were able to get a lot of pre-sales that way. People signed up even when our building was just a shell of a building, not knowing exactly what we had to offer, and they signed up as founding pass holders. And
yeah, I mean, we
started
had
off with
soft
this.
opening. It was about a week or so before open. Just a lot of people don't know what cryotherapy is. What do we offer? So it's like, let's just come on in. Let's come see what we have. I mean, experiment, see what you like.
do you remember after that grand opening day, because obviously at the time you did set a record, how many people were officially signed up with you guys after grand opening?
I think it was 124.
Jeez. And do you remember how many of those were the pre-sale people?
Probably 70 or 80, maybe.
So almost half.
Yeah.
Or more than half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that boots in the ground, that hustle, that's what sets up success.
Oh, absolutely.
The idea of the soft opening, did you guys just say, hey, we're going to do a soft opening before? Did that come from iCRYO? Where did that idea come from?
Okay, my son was playing high school baseball at the time. And, after practice or a game or whatever, we're like, just come on in, give it a try. Because they'd be sore and everything. They do it and they absolutely love it. It's like, why don't we kind of just let more people experience it? So it kind of went from there.
Yeah, I love that. So we open up, doors are officially open now. You're still working as a teacher, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did we start off staff in place? Was it a lot of you doing everything? Did we start with the 14 people in place? How did it look from a staffing standpoint?
Maybe 10, 12, I think, staff members. Actually,
Yeah.
my sister was in from Louisiana visiting. We put
That's
scrubs on her, and she was there just helping greet people and do whatever she could to help us out, because it was a wild day.
so I have to go back because I did ask this question now because this is the kind of cool thing about starting with a little bit of a blueprint, starting with some time to plan. When did you start that hiring process for getting staff in place beforehand? Because sometimes it's usually owner opens up the location and then it's just the owner doing everything at first, right?
Yeah.
And then trying to get staff in place. So you guys decided to be a little bit more prepared for that. What's that process look like? Because we talked about getting clients, but what's the process of getting staff?
Well, could do everything by ourselves.
No,
Yeah,
there's
that's-
no way.
Yeah, too. You have to have a registered nurse on staff, and iCRYO requires at least 2 people
Yep.
in the building at all times, just safety reasons. So we definitely had to get, staff ready to go. We would just, on our neighborhood forum, say, hey, iCRYO hiring, go out and was it Indeed, throw out ads, Facebook, whatever we could do, just word of mouth.
Yeah. So I think that's where that blueprint helps because obviously you knew from talking with iCRYO corporate, hey, we need to have this staff here minimum.
Mm-hmm.
But you made a comment there where you said you can't do everything yourself.
Right.
Did that just come because iCRYO told you that? Or because a lot of owners fall on the other side of the spectrum when they start and they're like, I'm doing everything myself. What gives you guys that kind of humility in a sense of even thinking that way of you need a team?
Well, I've always felt that way. I mean, I'm always open for somebody to help me and get something figured out. Let's do it together. You have an idea, bring it to me. Let's do it. Better way of doing things. But 2, you kind of need to plan a staff for the future, being busy. Because the last thing I want is to be understaffed. People get frustrated. They're not going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rather have more staff, just go on, let's go, instead of being understaffed and just guests having an awful experience.
Yeah. Did you have any role in the staffing before they opened?
Yeah, ironically, and I just wanted to say too, our staff that started with us took a chance on us as well because we were still in construction. And I'd say probably within the last 2.5 years, there's more brand awareness of what some of our services offer. 2.5 years ago, there weren't that many places like us around. Now there are popping up a little bit more, it's good because it brings more awareness to wellness and recovery. But these staff members that we hired didn't really get what we were about. Our 2 nurses that we started with came, and it was my spring break week, and that's when we hired our nurses that started with us. So I was able to kind of sit in on those interviews. But we'd go meet at Starbucks around the corner. We'd kind of just, we're very laid back people anyway, but just kind of lay back, get to know them, see what their goals were, and then we'd bring them around the corner to the construction site. And you got to think for an RN leaving what they know, hospital setting or an office, definitely took a chance on us, and that meant the world to us. That they trusted enough to know that this is what they wanted. So
yeah. Because this is something I see people hit a lot, right? Because especially in a lot of different med spas, wellness businesses, if we're doing medical weight loss, things like that, injectables, like you have to have that RN and staff. And now there is a lot more awareness of what it is, things like that. But at that time, did you have to do a lot of education on the services? Did you have to do a lot of education on like, hey, this is why iCRYO exists. This is what we're going to be doing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a deep dive into every service we offer. Even for ourselves, we had driven down to another iCRYO and we did cryotherapy, but did we really fully understand the mechanism of what it was doing and how it worked, and even like red light therapy, which is an amazing service. It's the general public really doesn't understand how wavelengths of light the impact it can have on your body and the cellular processes of all that. But
yeah, I was calling BS on that. I was like, hey, it's light. Come on, no. But then I was like, okay, there are over 4,000 studies on it, and from what I've seen, with my own eyes and personally experienced, I'm like, okay, yeah, there's something to it.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump ahead and then we'll pull it back. But just because we're on that topic of staffing right now, which one of you guys deals with the onboarding process of staff? Who's kind of doing that?
We both.
You both?
To a degree, like we both do the interviews and make sure that we align in that aspect. Training wise, definitely more me.
Yep.
And, it's a commitment. So just making sure those people are trained up in all the right ways and before you let them go.
Yeah, that's the reason we don't hire seasonally. Like from just the summer or just Christmas, because there's so much that goes into it, the education part, that it takes a while to get understanding and a grasp of what we're doing.
Yeah. What are some of the things you guys are looking at in that interview process? How do you know when you found the right person?
I don't know if you ever really know you got the right person until after, it's been some time, because people could sell themselves in an interview. And then when they actually get on the floor and start working, it's like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
So a lot of personality, what their goals, what they're looking for. You look at, their history, their work history. So like if they got, job hopping all the time, that's kind of, that's that red flag. That's maybe not a good fit.
Anything that tells you, Allison, your gut, if you're obviously, like, I love it's the show me, not tell me mentality, but you still got to make the gut decision. All right. Is there anything that stands out to you?
I think someone needs to be passionate about the services that we offer, you know, because if you don't believe in it, you're not going to sell anything. You've got to believe in those services, understand how they work, et cetera. But I don't know.
Yeah. You just gave probably one of my favorite nuggets of sales right there, which is that sales is 90% conviction and then 10% persuasion. And I think it's that conviction element. And that's why I love the wellness business so much, because people will swipe their credit cards for pretty much anything and everything, have an Amazon box delivery coming every day, or buy the car that they shouldn't buy and things like that. But when you're selling wellness, I've never met anyone who signs up for a wellness program, drops weight, feels better, and then regrets that decision. And I think, but that's where that conviction comes from, and having the staff have that conviction. So we hire the person. Now, let's just say you hired me today. Do you just throw me into the fire and I'm there, or do we have an onboarding training? I know you mentioned you do most of the training. What's that process look like?
Yeah, it's a combination. And I'm just going to scoot back to, how do you know that's the right staff member? And for us, it's all about how we treat our guests. People walk into our center and they're like family to us. That's why they come back. It's that relationship. So it's also looking in an interview on someone that is personable, someone that cares about people. And then I'll circle back around. Sorry. With the training aspect, it's a little bit of different approaches. I think people learn differently. I'm very much a hands-on. He might get an email during the day and he'll go to read it to me, and I'm like, no, I've got to see it. People learn differently. So it's definitely a combination and hitting the training from different angles. I do a lot of hands-on training. iCRYO does have a university with different modules, teaching and going through the services, the benefits, the safety protocols, et cetera. So it's that, and a lot of hands-on training. I'll spend a good 2 weeks. We'll always staff someone for about 2 weeks before we kind of staff them without that mentor, that shadowing. And it's just a lot of hands-on.
Yeah. And when a guest comes in, they're always, for the first time, they're given a tour of all our services. And it probably takes a good month or so before a staff member can actually give that tour.
Yeah.
Because they got to be confident, know what you're talking about, how you can relate to that guest and how each service can benefit them.
Because it's not 1 or 2 services. It's 7 lifestyle services. It's knowing about the hyperbaric oxygen therapy. It's knowing about all the IV infusions. It's the body sculpting. So it's a lot of information. And in our interviews, we also make that pretty clear, like, are you ready to learn a lot? Are you ready to dive deep into the education piece of it all?
And so, speaking of the team, so you guys are up and running, you're cranking, you have someone in place, you're still teaching. When did we hit the point where you decide to go full in and you're going to come in and help with running the business?
It was about a year in. I was exhausted. I was teaching all week. We worked every weekend, open to close, every Saturday, every Sunday. So then it was making lesson plans and just it was a lot. So I was just kind of burnt out at the end of that first year, and made the decision in June that, it was just almost another God wink for me. Like, it's going to be okay. It's okay to leave that. And, because there's the health insurance, there's all those securities that you have in life that you kind of have to let go. It's comfort. Right. And, we rolled with it, and it worked out the way it should. We had an amazing manager in place at the time. She was also a nurse and doing manager for us, and has little ones at home. And after about a year of that for her, she also felt the burnout, I think. She just wasn't able to give her family what they needed from her, and completely 100% supported that. So she kind of stepped down. She's still with us today. She's just doing nursing, but she's the best mom that she can be, and the best wife that she can be to her husband right now, that she wasn't able to give a year prior. So thankfully I was already not teaching and just kind of slid into things and worked out.
Yeah.
It always does, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think if there's something when I talked with you two that like stands out a lot, from our first conversation to doing a custom ad shoot, get you guys on camera, it's the getting out of your comfort zone. Like you two are aware of that and you're receptive to that. And it seems like you're willing to get out of that comfort zone. And because you're out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you just got to drag it out of.
Just drag it out of
Just
you?
drag it out. Yeah.
There you go.
We'll get there.
So how'd you feel when she came on full time?
How's this going to work? Yeah, work all day, live together. But we're different.
Mm-hmm.
And so it meshes, it works. It's fantastic. A lot of people say, I don't know how y'all do it, but I think it's fantastic. I think it's made us closer and stronger, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. And it works better for us working together all day than it did when we didn't, because when I was teaching, I wasn't really in the center during the week. He'd come home late at night and, I'd be in his ear, oh, did this get done? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, Allison, I want to turn iCRYO off. And
Let
I'm
me
like,
breathe.
but, right. So, there's days that we work all day together, but we might not talk a lot that day because we're just busy doing different things. But we come together at the end of the day on the same page.
But yes, I'm sorry. She runs iCRYO. If it wasn't for her, I don't know where we would be.
And I don't think that's true, but
I'm telling you, it's true.
Oh, I see it.
We balance each other well.
Oh, I think it takes two. And a lot of times can be tough. But what I have found though, especially if it meshes, if we have opposite strengths, it can be a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you guys see when you say you mesh well together and you see those opposite strengths? Like, what is that for you two? Like, who's strong in this area? Who's strong in that area?
I have no idea what a business plan looks like. That's more him, like the SBA, all the reporting, all the numbers, the insurance. I really just entrust that he's got that going on. And then I'm more doing scheduling. The everyday kind of front of the house, back of the house type of relationship we have within our center.
But I think we're both strong at treating our guests right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's about.
Yeah, it's a people business.
Absolutely.
If you guys don't mind, and get a little personal here, because a lot of people struggle with the concept of working with their spouse. Sometimes it starts off great, but then you hit some roadblocks. It's tough, right? Because you have the personal side, you have the business side. And so do you guys have any advice or anything like that of things that you've seen that you've had to kind of work through as you're working together in a business?
Well, I think we have the same goal,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the bottom line. And we're going to do whatever it takes to get to that goal. Be open, receptive, criticism. Absolutely. Because it's not to make you feel bad, put you down. Let's get better. If we each get better, then heck, we're going to get there.
It's just that communication piece.
I mean, that's almost marriage advice right there. Because that's probably one of the best piece of advice I've ever had is that reminding yourself that it's not one against one,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it's two coming together for one goal, one purpose. And it's cool to see that because it's, usually what sound, for me, faith wise, like usually what sound advice there is also usually sound business advice. Mm-hmm. You mentioned communication. Did you just communicate well from the start with the business? Are there things that you've had to put in place to help the communication around the business?
I feel like it's been good from the beginning. My biggest thing, I'm just a to-do list person, Post-it notes all over. So if he's struggling on getting something done that needs to be done, I'll casually go leave a Post-it note on top of his computer or something, Like, here it is.
It's there so long I don't even notice it anymore.
Just a little bit of a nudge here and there.
So we have to talk team. You guys do some things that I've noticed. We had a little bit of a conversation about like the monthly meetings and things like that with your staff. Things that tend to go missing with a lot of owners I talk with. The focus can, and it's, and I get why, but the focus can be very, very driven on revenue, new business, profit, right? Hitting those goals. But talk a little bit about how you lead your team, the things that you put in place to still grow the business. But I find when I talk to you, Allison, a lot of your focus is also about like, how do you grow people?
One thing I think is we are the people. Joel and I get on our hands and knees and scrub the floor. We do the laundry. We are an equal in our center. And I think that from the beginning builds culture that we don't really micromanage. I think you try to build a team with honesty and integrity, and, we're going to treat you just as we'd want to be treated. And as far as growing the team, kind of going back to those monthly check-ins, we do pay commissions, and it's either like a 5 or a 10% bonus on how we did that month. So we like to, at the end of the month or at the beginning of the next month, we're just starting it this week actually. You sit down with that person and it's kind of like glows and grows, like look what you did this month. Look at the packages you sold, and we kind of like to break it down to not just their hourly wage, but we break it down to what their average hourly wage ended up being after commissions. And it's kind of an aha moment sometimes, like, wow, yeah, I don't think I really make a lot, but look what I'm doing.
Allison, so when you say glows and grows, what do you mean by that?
Just the highs and the lows. Like, look what you did good. Look what you are glowing on. Look, like, gosh, you sold 5 IV packages. Or we had a staff member who struggled with being a people person, and we grew her there. And that's so rewarding on our end, because she just didn't see herself blossoming in a sense. And when you get a compliment from a guest, like, look what you're doing with people. Look how you're interacting with people. Because it's sometimes, if you're not a people person, that takes a lot of energy and effort. So, just kind of complimenting staff on what they're doing great, and then where we can maybe be a little bit better. Maybe it's answering the phone better. Maybe, again, it doesn't all have to be based on a monetary goal. It could be more of a growth inward on growing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a goal for ours is, some of our staff won't be with us forever, but it's how can we make them better for the next thing in life, prepare them.
I want to pull this out because one of the saddest things to me, and I see it all the time when talking to type A driven CEOs, is when they complain about the team. They complain because you see the problems, right? Like, as the owners, like, you see every problem in your business and you're hyper aware of it because it's your baby. But a lot of times the complaint is, my staff can't do this. My staff is sucking here. They didn't clean this up. That wasn't there. And a lot of times we're so focused on those problems with the staff, and that's all they hear. Mm-hmm. And I think we forget that we're in the people business, and the passion to be able to say, let me figure out what are they doing well. The glows and grows. Like, I'm gonna steal that one, but it's like, what's glowing? Like, what is doing well right now? And then how can you build someone up in that versus always trying to tear them down as an owner? And I see that often. The other thing that I think is really, really critical is, if you have an employee that is struggling or they're not hitting numbers, a lot of times I'll hear that from business owners that we work with all the time. Like, hey, my staff isn't doing this or not doing that. And we'll ask the question, okay, what's communication look like? And there's usually none. Mm-hmm. And so I think those monthly check-ins are something that's really important, because then there's clear communication. Just like you mentioned, there needs to be communication with you two. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with your staff. Yep. And there's nothing to me, because we have healthy turnover, right? It's just the wellness business game. Sure. Like, there's going to be people that leave. Hopefully they leave better. I love how you said that. You want to make them better. But the worst type of turnover in my book, I call it unhealthy turnover, is the turnover where it's a surprise, right? Where that person is like blindsided. They had no idea. You just show up with a list of 20 things, like, you're let go. And I think those monthly check-ins are ways that we can stop that from happening, right? Because we're being honest, we're communicating, we're trying to grow them before just cutting the cord and letting someone go. Have you guys had to let anyone go yet?
No, we haven't.
Hey, and look at that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's been a mutual, like, this is the best.
We want to work with somebody and get them better, see what we could do. It's almost like, it's a challenge. They start here. Where can we get them to?
Right now, you guys have built something, just from seeing the staff on hand, seeing some of the numbers, you guys built something pretty successful.
We have.
And it's an exciting thing to see there. We've talked a little bit about staffing here. What have been some of your guys's, how have you dealt with marketing? Because you talked about the pop-up tents, not knowing digital marketing at first. What have been some of those pain points, frustrations, and how have you solved some of that when it comes with how do we continue to get new people in the door?
I mean, we're trying to do it ourselves for a while, then go with, one company doing, marketing, and we don't know any better, that sounds great. Let's try it. It may work for a few months. It's like, I don't know if this is right. Yeah. So it's hopping around trying to find the right fit, but I think we might have found the right partner now.
Hopefully.
All right.
No pressure.
Yeah, it's just, like I said, we're ignorant to it. It's not our strong point. So let's give it to somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Help us grow.
Yeah. Have you guys, because we came out and we did a custom ad shoot, and we explained a little bit of like why we wanted to do that. And so when we brought that up and you guys were like, cool, let's do it. Have you guys done that before in the past, or was it always just running, someone else's ads? Like, what did that look like?
It's all new to us.
Yes. Not putting yourself out there. So we would, use other people's videos, or somebody would come in.
And corporate has a good library of videos that we can post, and videos, reels, things like that. So posting those things ourselves. But no, we've never really made any content within our own four walls to push out there. But that goes a long way too, because people see when they walk in, oh, you were the one in the video. Yep. And it's that connection.
So we have a philosophy where marketing is just one component of the business, right? Getting leads is just one component. It's not the entire business. And a lot of times we lose sight of that. At least that's what I've seen, owning wellness businesses and now being on this side of it with the consulting and marketing. And one of the biggest things that we like to teach is that we want that the way that we start the relationship with marketing to not just lead to a new person signing up. We want it to lead to someone who's going to have a high lifetime value, which means that they're going to stay, right? They're going to get a lot of value. They're going to really be able to see who you are. And so if you're out there and you're running a lot of, maybe Groupon style offers, or you're running things that don't really showcase who you are or what your facility even looks like, it can be really powerful if you get out of the comfort zone, shoot some ads in your location, and give the people in your community a really good insight look into this is what iCRYO St. John's looks like. So I'm excited for you guys. I'm glad that you guys got out of your comfort zone there. I think it's going to be big.
Yes, we did.
Talk a little bit about that though, with shooting the ads and not being necessarily a camera person. What made it easier for you? What made that something that you were able to do?
It's just one of those things you have to talk to yourself and say, you're going to do this and it's going to be good and it's going to be great after. Kind of like today, totally out of our comfort zone, but it's a good thing. And it's always good to push yourself in those areas because it makes you that much better. But the experience of shooting itself, we were kind of led and it was an amazing day. We didn't really have to think through a lot of things. It was just like, okay, this is what we need. This is what I need you to say. So that was very comforting as well. We didn't have to have the creative mind that went behind it all.
So where are we going from here? What's kind of some of the goals, if you guys don't mind sharing? Are we looking to open up other iCRYOs?
Yeah, I'm more of a dreamer. She's more of a realist.
All right, so this is Joel's portion.
Yeah. So my goal, my dream is we have 3 kids. We have a daughter who's 23 and 2 sons, 20 and 18. And I would like to have, an iCRYO for each of them.
Wow.
That's at least one. So
man,
that's my goal and dreams, as long as it's what they want. And 2 of the three so far said, yeah, they want to come in the family business.
I love that.
And that just mean the world, keeping your family together, working together, strong family unit.
Absolutely. Allison, what are you most excited about?
It is exciting. And I do think when we get there to do a second, boy, is it going to be easier. We have our roadmap now. We're blind to it all. I just say that we were drowning for several months after opening, like littlest things of even like the scheduling. We would just open the computer and the staff that we had, they'd fill themselves in. I mean, we've learned so much along the way. So yes, the second, I'm not as hesitant as I was the first time, but it's just got to be the right time. It's got to be the right place. It's got to be the right people, and trusting those people to run it and treat it like your own. And hopefully that'll be within the family, so that'll be a little bit easier. But it's also scary to not be there every day with it, because we are owner operator, and I think that goes a really long way. It's not that we do everything in center, but it's eyes there. It's the eyes on the little things, or the laundry hampers getting emptied, because when they're all full, that leaves a bad impression for our guests.
Yep.
The toilet paper in the bathroom, does it need to be changed? Is there little things on the floor? I mean, we see those things all day.
Cleaning the windows outside. Because if I see something that's off, I can't.
Yeah.
And we were just 2 days ago, we were on a ladder outside cleaning the outside windows. So it's just entrusting that someone's going to love it as much as you do.
Yeah. So I would, if it's okay, I would love to speak some life into you guys. From conversations that we've had, there's been a few things that I see. The first thing I see is I see people, like when you say that we're equals in the business, like that's not just something, some people say that, but there's one thing to say and there's one thing to have your actions back it up. And in the interactions I've seen with you guys, being willing to get out of your comfort zone, how you lead without micromanaging, but still leading and doing it, I think that's something that's phenomenal, because as you see business today, that can be missing. It's tough to find a good place to work. It's tough to find a place where you mentioned taking them out to, what was the baseball game you guys went to?
Savannah Bananas.
Yeah, I always want to go to one of those things. I see it now on Instagram all the time. But it's those little things that are what makes this a place where, yes, we're transforming lives. You're seeing people's lives change with weight loss and feeling better and looking better and all of those things there. But it's cool that you guys are really focused on how do you create a culture that you can also do that for your staff. You can
and
do
we
that
know
for
our staff, we know about their college classes. We know about, we know our staff and they know us well.
Man.
It's just that trust.
And I think those are the things where that's the beauty in a wellness business, right? We can transform lives in the community, but we can also bring people in from a staffing standpoint and help transform theirs. And so I hope you guys go big with your vision, because the bigger vision that you have, right? So trust Joel and then you keep him in check though.
Yes.
Sure, yeah.
But the bigger the vision, the bigger it allows other people to have their visions within it. And so I'm excited to see that in you guys. Before we leave though, I would love for each of you, from kind of your personal experience, you know, Allison, maybe it's a teacher somewhere, maybe it's a wife, you know, with a husband who has a vision to start a business. What would you speak to that person? What advice would you give?
Something that I've learned along the way is yes, to trust, to take a leap. That's hard sometimes, but what you get out of it is incredible. I've changed as a person in the last 2.5 years. I'm a very quiet person. I'm an introvert, but I find myself now when I'm out in the community and other businesses, if I see a staff member doing an awesome job, I make sure I tell them that. I'm just a different person. I've grown a lot. And at the end of the day, I have more confidence in myself than I ever have before.
Wow. And for Joel, for the guy that's out there, decades in a career,
I say follow your passion. Whatever moves you, drives you, go for it. You know, take a calculated risk. Don't go do something just because you think money's there. It's not going to work. But if you're truly passionate about something, you're going to find a way to succeed.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to steal your question. What's the worst that can happen? Right?
That's it. Lose everything, file bankruptcy, but you know what?
Move back in with mom and dad.
We're still alive. We can rebuild. But roll the dice. Let's go for it.
I love it. Guys, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for getting out of your comfort zone, right? And sharing this, because this is the stuff that gives someone else nuggets, right? Tactical nuggets in the business, of course. But I think the biggest thing, it gives them nuggets of like, they're not alone, right? Entrepreneurship can be a really, really lonely road sometimes. But when you hear these stories and you see it and you see how it's working out and how it's changing people, it makes it feel a little bit more of a safer place. So thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you, Josh.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Where can people, Instagram wise, if they want to kind of check out what St. John's iCRYO is doing, or maybe they want to come to St. John's iCRYO, where can they find you guys?
We're in the Durban Park Pavilion, right next to Home Depot. So if you're standing like in the parking lot of Home Depot, we go right to the right. We do have several people that walking into Home Depot, all of a sudden take a right and come on in.
An Instagram handle, what is it? You guys know it? If not, I'll link it in the chat.
St. John's _ iCRYO _ St. John's.
There we go.
Yeah. And then Facebook, iCRYO St. John's.
Perfect.
Got a great website where you can check out all of our services, what we offer, and a lot of education there as well.
Yeah, iCRYO St.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Josh.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Wellness Business Secrets Podcast. As always, my biggest ask for you is we will continue to bring on more people like this, show you the real ins and outs of what it actually looks like to own a wellness business and do it at a high level. If that's something that you want to keep learning about, you love these nuggets, then please go ahead and subscribe. Shoot a comment below, leave a review. And then if you are a wellness business owner and you are interested in sharing your story, sharing your business, helping people with the ins and outs, then shoot us a comment, shoot us a message, and we will be with you. Until the next one, guys, take care.